Hi, I'm Jason Sterling. I'm a member of the EA Creator Network, and this is part three of From Start to Finish. Now, we've made a lot of progress through the first two parts of this particular build, building this crystal bridge here for Everdo. This episode is going to really focus on trying to figure out where are these fairies going to live, because right now we have a landing platform so they can get here, right? And then we have the crystal bridge, which is a sort of botanical garden where they can grow, well, anything, but they're going to grow sort of harvestables for the apothecary table. Now, in the earlier episodes, I had started by placing some of the sort of rooms that you see on the screen right now. These sort of odd shaped spaces, because I didn't want things to be really a square, right? I didn't want a box for the fairies to live in, because they're fairies and they're going to do things a little bit differently than we would. So I moved some stuff around. I've got all sorts of, ideas. My first thought is that I need to put things on both sides, right? I'm going to build a village around this particular tube. Now, there's not a whole lot of land on this particular lot. This is not a huge lot. And in fact, as we go along, that's what I keep running into. Is my idea, my scope for this, basically my head was a lot larger than I ended up having land-wise to deal with here on the ground. Another problem is I don't really want to see these structures impede the view of the bridge itself. So I start out, kind of moving them around, manipulating them on the front side, what I consider the front side of this particular, bridge, this crystal bridge, because that's the area that people are going to walk past as Sims. And I do some terrain, adjustments, and I move things around because I'm thinking, I don't want it to be too cluttered, right? I want the bridge to be the focal point. And I try several different sort of configurations. I try several different configurations. You can see as I'm moving things around, I get those red lines. Again, I just really don't have the space here that when I'm looking in my head, thinking about what am I going to build when I start next time, it doesn't live up to the reality of what I've got to work with. Especially, you can see here, one of the problems I'm talking about is even when I've got just a single story, like just a first floor, it acts as a second floor because of the terrain's so high. And already watching this video, and definitely when I was building it, when I was building it, and now I go back and I'm watching myself build it again, I'm thinking, that structure is just completely in the way of that tube, of that botanical garden. It completely interrupts the view. It completely destroys what I'm going for. Visually what I'm going for. So again, I move things around. I kind of create these cantilevered overhangs, try to create some outdoor patio space. I'm thinking also as I'm building this, do I have enough room here for a bed? Because I run into that problem sometimes where I want this sort of look, I want it to maybe appear to be somewhat grand and sizable, but there isn't the space to do that. So in order to make it appear that way, I make it smaller and taller. But then smaller and taller, even though it looks very grand, there's not enough room on the interior to make it usable space. Like, where are you going to put a bed, right? Where are you going to put the things the Sims are going to need to use? We can get away with some pretty small spaces in The Sims, but does it look realistic? Does it feel realistic? Does it feel like something you want to use? I did some solid walls there, as you can see. Realize I absolutely hated it. Absolutely hated it against that bridge. I start moving all the chunks over to the other side because I'm thinking I want the bridge front and center. I want this village stuff on the other side where it's not such an impact to my view. So I get the structures in place, and again, because I don't want it to be a box, I start playing around, and I actually kind of like this. As we're looking at this again, I did not go this route, but what I was kind of thinking of with this was a 4-leaf clover. Luck plays a role, right, in Everdo and in Inniscreen. So I'm thinking kind of a 4-leaf clover as sort of a structure. Now, again, you can see I started to build a tower there, and I do fall back on the tower again. We're going to see that coming up. But looking down into it as we're doing right now, you can see there's not a lot of space in each of these rooms. Now on the first floor, I could blow out the walls, right? I could blow out the walls and there would be enough space there to do something with. But in the tower part, there really wouldn't be. I'm going to end up with, like, you know, a real tough time using it, and especially with the angles. So I go through here, I play around with some different sort of shapes, and there's not much to say. You know, we can just watch it kind of play out a little bit, that I try a lot of different things. Again, this isn't really something that I've built before, so I'm not doing the same thing that can fall back on experience and think, okay, I'll do this, I'll do that, right? It's it's a suburban home. I can put a square room here, a square room here, a square room here. I've looked at a million suburban homes, right? So homes and home plans in my life. So yeah, that'll be easy to put together. Yeah, so I just am trying to create something, anything to me that I think, yeah, this will look like something different, like a sort of fantasy build. I start building the tower up again on the structure you can see here. Now, at the time, I did not think this. Okay, looking at it now, watching the video as I'm doing this voiceover, yes, I can definitely see where it kind of looks like a penis. Right. It kind of looks like a penis and a couple of balls there at the bottom. That was not in my head at the time. And once I got done kind of messing with it a little bit, I think it looks less that way. I don't know. Maybe it looks even more. I'm going to tell you what. But yeah, looking at it now, I'm like, what? Where was I going? I don't know. I don't really have any idea where I was going with it. I mean, I do. I wanted, again, sort of this sort of fantasy sort of build to it, but from above, it does have a very distinctive shape, and I really would need to fix that. Now, again, you can see I do kind of use the roofing, you know, I put on the lower levels, like a Japanese sort of pagoda, right? So that does take away a little bit of that feel. It does take away a little bit of that feel. And that's ultimately is where I'm kind of headed with it, because I've used a little bit of that sort of Asian feel, that Asian idea, that Asian influence in the other builds here in Everdo that I've done. So I want to try to keep replicating that. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to play around with it, see what we can come up with. I'll say real quick while we're looking at this, you know, roofing is a great way to add some sort of design interest or some architectural interest to your build. First of all, it's free. You don't have to pay anything for roofing, right? And you can layer roofing, as you can see I'm doing here. You can, you know, play around with making it more round. You go more concave. You can use squares or on the angle or round or 8-sided or 6-sided. Blend them together, change the colors of the tiles, create all sorts of different looks. One way too to give you more control over the roofing, it's not evident here, but when I click on the roofing to kind of adjust whether I want it rounded or concave, if you hit Shift C while you have that open, while you've clicked on the roof, it'll add additional controls for you to pull and manipulate the roof with. And you can definitely see that in some of where I was playing around there with the roofing. On the front side, I kind of start jumping into clearing away some of the walls. I want it to look a little more ethereal, right? A little more transparent, a little more see-through. I don't want it to be so solid. That's my thought. Anyway, now in the end, maybe it gets a little solid, right? I do need rooms. I do need places for Sims to live. But at this point, you can kind of see where I'm using the arches, overlapping them to create a sort of carved effect, and then using the spindles across the top to open up that wall, make it very transparent, see-through. And again, to give it this sort of effect of maybe a solid piece of wood that they carved the arches and the spindle spaces out of maybe one solid piece, right? That's kind of the look I'm kind of looking at there. I do a little more terrain manipulation here. The reason why is because I'm looking at the structure I've got built, and I'm realizing, of course, as you probably can realize just looking at it, is not big enough to hold very much. So I actually need a bigger structure that I'm going to place next to it. And so they don't appear exactly the same height, I'm going to flatten out this terrain at a raised level and build it on top of that terrain level, that terrain sort of platform, to give it that height above the other one. Now, it is going to stand above the crystal bridge, which I also kind of want, because I want it to be evident that there's something beyond that. There's structures and sort of habitability beyond that bridge. At the same time, I was a little bit torn. I didn't want it to get taller than the statue from Batu, because that's supposed to be kind of a hallmark of their society, right? Like maybe that's the founder of this society. In the end, it is taller. In the end, it is taller. I think it looks fine in the end. I do think I like the way it looks, but I did have some internal head discussion with myself. Like, do I really want to make this taller than that statue? And I guess at the end, you know, when you're looking at it too, those circular kind of arches there on top of the platform behind the statue, they're actually taller too, right? I mean, they're actually taller too. Now, they're not very substantial. They don't have that substance that blocks the eye, so it doesn't really impact on the dominance of the statue over the scene, really, like the structure I'm going to ultimately build does. But it was taller than the statue as well. But that is part of what I'm, you know, kind of question with myself and ask myself as I'm going through these builds is, do I want to do it or not? What is the feel and what is kind of the lore and the backstory that I'm trying to express through this build? Because most of the builds I do, not all of them, but most of them have some sort of lore backstory to it. So the reason why this looks like this is because of this reason. That can even go sometimes for a suburban house. So if I go in and decorate a teenager's bedroom, there's going to be that lore there of why did I put this stuff in this room? Why did I put this big collectible in the living room for this family in this suburban house? What does that tie into? Kind of their story. Same thing is true here. And that's kind of an internal debate I had with this particular area when I was working on it. Okay, now right off the bat here, you can see after the fade that we go from one picture to another picture, and there are two things immediately evident that are different. The first one, of course, is the structures I was working on for housing have been developed further. Now, this highlights an issue that I've mentioned before in regard to trying to build and trying to do videos and work. I work a lot of hours, but sometimes I do have time at work to put some work in, or some hobby work in, on something like this. And if I have enough presence of mind to actually remember to turn on the recording software, that goes just fine. In this case, I did not have enough presence of mind to turn on the recording software. So as you can see, there haven't been a lot of changes. I did add roofs and kind of alter the roof structure a little bit on those two main towers. And then what I kind of thought of as the pillar towers, which are the small, it's not really a bump out, but the small tower in front of the larger tower. On the lower rise tower, it's a 1x1 grid, right? So it's that 1x1 box that goes up the length of the tower. And then I stuck in the archways to open it up. I did the same thing on that other newer, larger tower, high-rise tower next to it. But I did a 2x2 grid ultimately with that. I also added the fencing with the flowers on top that you can see there, and a couple of those sort of fire dishes, right? The sort of light fixtures that look like a dish with fire coming out of it. So not a huge change, but definitely something you can tell that's different that was added in between those two shots. The other thing is that you can see here in this particular picture, by the end of this video, we are going to switch this build finally to a different lot. I'm going to move it to finish building it on a different lot in town, in the town of Innisgreen, just to have more control over the lighting and have it be brighter. You can obviously tell right off the bat it's considerably brighter here, and the shadows are not as pronounced. So I do move it by the end of this video. Now, ultimately, I'm going to put it in Everdo, right? I'm going to move it back over there when I'm done building it to Everdo, and I'll probably even play test it in Everdo. Maybe the play test that I don't video record, I might do in Everdo, and maybe not. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so it was time to outfit the botanical garden. I brought in some trees. I always bring in full-size trees if they're available. In this case, this is lemon trees. You do use a lot of lemons with the apothecary table. And then some of the other stuff that is new with this pack. So the 3 new harvestables, like the electric root, the balance bush, and the emotional bush. I don't remember what they're called. But I brought 2 of each of those in here as well. Or was it 4? I don't know. At least 2 of each of those in here. Planted those. You can see I mentioned earlier that I was going to do plantings of just the outdoor landscaping plants like you would typically find in a botanical garden. I started placing those in the back. Then I had Constantino here go through. He's my fawn, by the way. Now, is he a real fawn? No, he's not. He's just some freak that stuck some horns on his head and wears a pair of boots. So it looks like he has hooves, but he's not a real fawn, you guys, because if you know what a real fawn looks like, they're kind of hairy all over, and they have like animal legs, not pants on. But Constantino's happy being who he is. And I call him Constantino Fawn, and he planted all of our plants there. And I start building out a sort of tea range or tea room, a little tea space, right? Someplace to rest and relax here in the back of this botanical garden. And I had some trouble. He is trying to sit on these 2 sofas. And I can't figure out why he can't sit on the 2 sofas. So I end up going through and trying all of these different ways to get him to sit on it. Nothing works. Finally, I just erased them, right? And I bring in some other furniture to see, is it the space? Because there should be nothing wrong with the space. But is it the space or is it the furniture? So I try it, and as you can see here, it's obviously not the space, because the new furniture I brought in is working just fine, both of those chairs. I also bring in a couple of larger items, like a love seat size, like a bench, which is what I was using before. So let's try that and see if the problem is the size of it, and if that's causing some sort of routing issue. And no, as you can see here, it is not causing a routing issue. It should be fine. Again, it should be okay. So I go ahead and I take those out, and I bring in the furniture from the new pack, including the love seat I was just having an issue with, and they work. Oh, why were they not working there for a little bit? I don't know, because they do ultimately work. And even when I place them across from each other, because I thought maybe they're too close. They shouldn't be too close, right? This is a standard amount of room. I thought also maybe the tree was in the way, so I'd move the tree. So I put the tree back, and we're going to go through here and test it. And you can't see the tree, because trees disappear when you get too close, but the tree is still there, and he can sit on them. So what was wrong with it? Who knows? Who knows? I really don't know what was wrong with it for a little bit there. It doesn't matter. I got it working, but that's one of the problems with building, isn't it? That's why we play test, because even though I know those should have worked, I still play test it, because who knows? They didn't work at first. Now they do. We throw in a little bit of landscaping here, or I do. The one pot there with the palms, sort of fan of palms. I put 2 pots together and then changed the color to give it a sort of striped appearance. That's just a sort of little build trick you can do. Now, it works best if you have the tool mod, so you can go in and make one of the pots just slightly smaller than the other one. That way you won't get that stutter, that graphical stutter effect that we saw there for just a bit. You won't get that, and you'll just see this drive sound. It looks like a different sort of pot. So it's almost like custom content, but it's not custom content because it only is exactly what you have in game, just layered on top of each other. We throw in some lighting, of course. We need to be able to see what we're doing. So I throw in a little bit of lighting. I put in some flooring like you might find in a greenhouse or a botanical garden, sort of a tile floor. And coming up, let's see how many floor types I go through here. I go through several. I think I end up just settling with, I think the fan type. I don't know, maybe not. But I do go ahead and throw in a rug there as well. And then I should test out a tea table. Even though I used the table from Realm of Magic there, I go ahead and just make it plain to kind of limit, draw back a little bit on that Realm of Magic look. I don't want it to be too close, but I do really love that little table. I throw a tea set on there. I can't remember what that came with. Something. I don't know. But I throw the tea set on there, and I have him tested, and it works. He can make tea. He can grab a cup of tea. Maybe that's coffee. I don't know what it is. And then he sits down, and he has a nice rest there. Eventually, I will go through, of course, and test it with more than one sim. Make sure a couple of sims can sit there together having tea and talking to one another, which is the ultimate goal with that space. I throw in some more trees, not so much because we need them, as I just thought it looked a little empty. I wanted to have a more bushier kind of forest effect, like in the inspiration piece, the Crystal Bridge in Oklahoma City, or the original Crystal Bridge in Oklahoma City. It's not very bushy anymore. I'm not kidding. They ruined it. I mentioned that already. Maybe even in this video, they ruined it. I'm so pissed. I really am pissed. As you can see down there, we built an apothecary lab, an apothecary studio. We'll call it a studio, apothecary studio. We're going to do a little bit of decoration here on this upper level of this portion of the bridge that you walk down from our platform into, and then down the ladder to the apothecary studio. I go through and just kind of pick out some plants, a light fixture, nothing startling, nothing stunning, no real great building or decorating feat here. Now, I do have to go through later and play test this, and I do, because those plants can cause routing issues. And in this case, they did cause routing issues. My sim, whatever I ended up, ultimately using there, my sim could not reach the ladder to get down to the other floor. So I ended up having to change it around a little bit. But all in all, it worked out pretty well. Like I said, playtest for that reason. Now, as you can see, we dropped in here to our new lot in Innisgreen, which was a park. There was like a ton of park-like lots in this, and I get it, it's nature, I do. But the whole world is like a park. Like literally the neighborhood itself has a playground in it. So you don't need to build a playground or a park, because everything around you is a park, but this was a park too, so I bulldozed it. Did I even keep a picture of it? I don't know. Was it a park? I think it was a park. It must have been a park. Because I do have some issues coming up with it in the next video. So please hit like, subscribe, and notify. And in the next video, we're going to see what those issues were, and we'll talk about how to resolve it. It's a long-term ongoing glitch with this game. I mean, literally, like, it's been around for, I don't know, years or something, and I don't think they're ever going to fix it at this point, because I know tons of people have hit me too on the little sort of like fix it thing on, I don't know, what do they call that, the quality assurance teams glitch board or whatever, I don't know, through the forums, through EA. And you go and you say, hey, this shit doesn't work. And they go, oh, someone's already reported that. Just click me too here. And there's like 1,000 people have clicked me too. And the post has been up literally for like 5 years and it ain't fixed. So I think that this is going to be exactly the same thing. Just accept it. You have to just accept it. There is a workaround for it. I still think it should work without a workaround. Workarounds are not gameplay, you guys. Is that what Maxis thinks? Is that what EA? Not Maxis. I think more EA. Is that what EA thinks? Yeah, workarounds are like gameplay. That's like a challenge. It's like a challenge in the game for you to figure out how you can actually play the game when it breaks. Oh my God, I just figured out the whole EA marketing strategy. I don't know why they don't share that with people. That's brilliant. Isn't that brilliant? Don't you think that that is brilliant? Pay us money and we'll give you a broken game. And then your game, what you do is you figure out how to play it. You figure out how you're going to be able to play this broken game that we sold you. Da-da! 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 Yes, they should hire me at EA. I could do marketing for them. I certainly could. Okay, so anyway, please hit like, subscribe, and notify. Until next time, when we're going to jump in here, and I don't even remember what's coming next time. A lot more stuff. Oh, landscaping. A lot of landscaping is coming next time. I'm going to build a curved staircase the Sims can actually use. So that's coming up next time on the next videos. So yeah, please hit like, subscribe, and notify. And until then, as always, thank you for watching.